Who's the stupidest person you've ever met, and what story perfectly sums up their stupidity? One night during high school, my friend and I got invited to a party. I didn't drive back then, so my friend picked me up. All went well on our way to the party. On the way back, however, he got pulled over. As we were pulling to the side of the road, I told him that I was gonna pretend to be sleeping, since I was the passenger. Anyway, I hear the cop get out of his cop car, walk towards our car, and stops at the window, but he doesn't say anything. I can feel the brightness of his flashlight, but I don't hear him, or my friends say anything. After about what seemed like an eternity, I decided to open my eyes, to see what was going on. That's when I see my friend, the guy who is driving, is pretending like he is sleeping too. The guy I went high school with was at a party, and asked the homeowner if he could have her tattoo kit. She obviously said no. He left and came back an hour later with a ski mask on, demanding for the tattoo kit. He was arrested the next day. Can't make up that kind of stupidity. This girl I used to work with before she got fired. One day she came to work with a broken arm, and claimed her boyfriend pushed her during a fight, and she fell. We all were super concerned for her until she came in a week later saying she stabbed her boyfriend in the hand during a fight, to get back at him for breaking her arm. Then a few weeks later, she told everyone she was secretly trying to get pregnant, because if she got pregnant, her unemployed boyfriend would have to get a job and help pay rent. She got pregnant, and her boyfriend immediately dumped her. I worked with a man named Roy. Roy had theories about how to live life. Royconomics. One day, he turned to me, and the other member of the crew. "You boys want to know how you get nice things?" he asked. "You go to the store, and you finance everything. New furniture, new appliances, televisions, stereos, everything. Then, you don't make any payments, and you don't show up for your court date. They'll end up garnishing your wages, but they take way less than the payments would have been. Then, about a week later, you boys want to know how you buy a house. You apply for every credit card you can possibly get, you take out your entire balance in cash from all of them, and you use that for your down payment. Then, you don't make any payments, and you don't show up for your court date." I can sum it up very easily. We were at the shooting range, and his gun jammed. He looked down the barrel, to see what was wrong. The first time I met Ben was in Improv 101. I was only taking the class for fun, but about half the people there were aspiring actors, including Ben. On the first day, the teacher had us all play this silly game to break the ice, and so we'd all remember each other's names. The rules are pretty simple. 1. Pick an adjective that starts with the same letter as your first name. 2. Introduce yourself using adjective plus first name. And 3. Do a simple gesture that goes with it. So, everyone is going around the circle, introducing themselves as Daring Daniel and Lonely Lauren and Awesome Alex, until we get to Ben. Ben introduces himself as Surfer Ben. He proceeded to misunderstand at least one key element of every gamer exercise for the rest of the class. I have no clue how this man functions in daily life. He has since managed to get a few featured extra roles on TV, though. Back in my younger and crankier days, I worked with a young woman who was hands down the dumbest person I've ever met. Her highlights include winning a basket auction that included a copy of the Beach Boys album Pet Sounds and complaining because she didn't want to hear a lot of mooing. One day, she was driving me up a wall. I convinced her to wait to open her bottle of Coke, because the bottle said there was a winner every 5 minutes. She was disappointed she didn't win, after waiting exactly 5 minutes. I, however, enjoyed her sulky silence for the rest of the day. The best or the worst one involved her chatting with a manager, who was African American, she's white. They were discussing their shared slightly uncommon name, and then realized their families both came from South Carolina. She thought for a few minutes, and then excitedly exclaimed, "I bet my family owned yours." She was so proud of herself for figuring out that historic connection. The manager didn't say a word, and just walked away. My brother. He is genuinely the stupidest person I know. He has broken his arms 5 times, 3 for the right arm and 2 for the left. This is how he did it. 1. Age 7, dancing on a table, fell off. 2. At age 15, smoking pot with a friend, a cop shows up, and he runs, jumps a fence, shorts get caught, and he falls out of them onto his arm. 3. Age 17, runs in front of his friend's truck as it goes down the road at 30 miles per hour. 4. At age 19, he was trying to hide from someone, and jumped over a couch and somehow broke his arm. I don't remember how he broke it the other time. I just know it's been 5 times. He was arrested for possession of a firearm, when he was not legally allowed to own one. It was his friend's firearm. He pointed it at a cop. He got expelled from my high school. Twice. While in prison, he got a marijuana leaf tattooed on his face. Upon seeing him for the first time after prison, he said, "Mom thinks I'm getting it removed, but I'm only gonna make it better. I'm also gonna get Chinese lettering down my face." He dropped out of high school, before finishing the 10th grade. Not because he had to, just because he didn't like school, and wanted to do drugs instead. He ended with a 3 in history, and a 6 in math. I don't know what his other grades were. When he was 15, my uncle was 30. It took half an hour to explain to him why he would not always be half of my uncle's age. He genuinely believed that the Ebola scare a couple years ago was the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. I am sure, if I thought real hard, I could come up with someone more stupid, but this story is pretty good. There was this receptionist at the veterinary office we have taken our dogs to over the years who argued with my dad about how to pronounce his own name. He went in to pick up some prescription something for our dog Daisy, and this girl asked the typical name of dog, name of owner type questions. "We have it listed as Michelle, and you don't look like a Michelle," she says. Dad asked how it was spelled on the monitor, and sure enough, it was still spelled Michael, Dad's name. He said, "That says Michael. That's my name." And she argued with him about it. He had to get his driver's license out to show her, and even though she finally relented to let him pick up whatever it was he was down there to pick up, she was adamant my dad has been mispronouncing his own name for 50+ years. The best part is Dad tells us this whole story, and we think nothing of it till like 3 months later, when Mom took the dog in for a checkup. The girl still thought the owner of the dog was Michelle and that my mom must be in a lesbian relationship. Mom gently corrected the lady that it was Michael, and again this girl was adamant it was pronounced Michelle. Mom, the muse, said something along the lines of "It's literally a name from the Bible. It's pronounced Michael, and has been for thousands of years." The receptionist sat in silence outside of the minimal amount of talking needed for the rest of that visit. In hindsight, that was silly. Makes me wonder when exactly that spelling started to sound like we say it today. Also, this is just my recollection of the story, because I heard it all secondhand through the parents, so I'm sure I've embellished it without realizing it, and this was all over a decade ago, anyway. As for the homegirl, she was very much a typical white girl. My guess is she had a foreign friend that spelled her name that way, and pronounced it Michelle, and she figured that was just the only possible way to say it. It's more the arguing over how to say it thing than anything else. Who argues with someone on how that person says their own name? My ex-husband. We were playing rock paper scissors to decide who had to go change the baby best 2 of 3. In round 1, I throw scissors, and he throws rock. I win, he proclaimed. In round 2, I throw paper, and he throws rock. I win, he says again. Paper beats rock, I tell him. His response: "No, rock beats everything." I spend like 5 minutes trying to wrap my mind around this. Finally, I ask him, then, what's the point of even playing? In total sincerity, he says, to have fun. Clarification edits. 1. No, sadly, he was not trolling me. He was completely serious. I know it's hard to believe, but in all fairness, he was born and raised in Florida. 2. Yes, I changed the baby. I did pretty much everything involving the baby after that. 3. As for my own level of intelligence and that of my son, I think he said it best himself when, at 4 years old, he said to me, "Daddy can't help it. What's your excuse?" Literally, this guy got fired last week for doing this. Whenever a customer would enter the store, he would mimic everything they said. Whilst already bad enough, he would try his best to copy their accent too, no matter what accent it was. Multiple complaints to our store have been made about this guy, and he had plenty of warnings. Well, last week, he finally got fired while serving an Asian customer, and in full view of our manager, he says this: "Hero, would you like a brag? got pulled into the office, where apparently he still maintained he'd done nothing wrong, and couldn't understand why he was being fired. Definitely a dumbass. My mom's cousin was the getaway driver when his friends held up a 7-Eleven. He had some outstanding tickets at the time. As he was driving his moron friends home, he sped past a cop who inevitably pulled him over. He defended his bad driving by telling the cop he was just a getaway driver. Then he got arrested. He has since been arrested for a series of other similarly stupid crimes. He also believes that there's a global cabal of Jews who are out to get him. Recently, he got a DUI, which got his license revoked. This was obviously because of the Jews, and not because he decided to drive drunk past a police station. When he was denied a gun license, that was the Jews at work. I have no idea why he thinks a global cabal would be focused on some moron from Saskatchewan. An old co-worker of mine. He was helping me move, and while we were carrying a couch, he dropped it. Thinking he was hurt, I asked if he was okay, and with the most serious and frightening look in his eyes, he said, pointing, "Look, it's the moon, and it's daytime." He was 25 at the time. I once called an Uber driver. When he arrived, he immediately asked me, "Are you going to X location?" I said, "No." He responded, "Great, because I'm not going to take you to X location." "Fine," I said. The journey got underway, and I was curious as to what he would have done if I'd said that yes, I wanted to go to X location. So, I asked him, "Hey, what would you have done if I had said that I did want to go to X location?" He responded, "Look man, I'm not going to take you to X location, okay? I told you already." I was a bit befuddled, but I tried again. No, I don't want to go there. In fact, you already know where I want to go. It's on your destination map. I'm just curious, what if I did want to go to X location? Would you have refused me the trip? Would you have driven off? He said, "Look man, I can't change the trip now. And anyway, I told you I refused to go to X location. You got to understand I'm busy." We spent nearly 15 minutes with variations of this back and forth. He was a fluent English speaker, by the way. By the end of it, I was 100% convinced that he couldn't understand the syntax of a hypothetical. He literally couldn't understand the question, if X situation, which is not the case, then what action would you take? I wasn't even mad, just astonished. How had he navigated through life thus far? What were his financial decisions like? I really wanted to follow him home and make a reality TV show about him or something. I had a manager named Roxanne, Rocky. She was a bleached blonde, literally bleached her hair once a month, and then wondered why it broke or fell out, bubblehead who only had the job because daddy owned the restaurant. Rocky was really obsessed with her looks, and not much else. One day she told me, and a co-worker, that she had her nose job done, so that her eventual children wouldn't grow up with the same nose as her. She wasn't kidding. The co-worker and I just looked at each other and walked away. We knew it wasn't worth the effort. When I was in the military, we had to halt a convoy due to a broken down truck. So, I was standing around with a few others for security, when I heard a driver behind us yelling for his squad leader. Looking to see what he needed, I observed thick smoke billowing from his truck. He keeps yelling, "My truck is on fire," without getting out of his seat and attempting to extinguish the fire or remove the weapons, ammo, and sensitive electronics. I was dumbfounded. There was this guy at my high school that wasn't too bright and was mostly harmless, but about halfway through decided he was gonna be a thug. One day he goes into a class of first years when their teacher wasn't there and robbed all their electronics, cash, and valuables at knife point without covering his face, and before he left, gave them his real name Singh. "And you better not tell them it was me, Jim Conrad, that stole all your stuff." He then proceeded to leave school grounds with all the stolen stuff, but decided against stashing it off campus, and so came back with all the stolen stuff in his backpack, and went back to spy on the class with his backpack full of loot, while police officers were there taking statements to make sure they weren't ratting him out. I knew this guy in high school who really thought his practical jokes were hilarious. He would just do stuff designed to piss you off, thinking your salty reaction would make it funny. You may be thinking this guy's a dick, and you'd be right. But he's also incredibly stupid, because every time someone said, "Dude, fucking chill out with your bullshit," he just blew it off. Social stupidity, I guess. Well, one day, he knocked this kid's hat off his head. These guys were friends, but clearly, there was some hostility. The other kid picks up his hat and tells Pranker to go away. Pranker smacks his hat again. Another kid tells him, if Pranker knocks his hat off a third time, he'd knock Pranker's head off. Pranker has a shit-eating grin, completely oblivious to how dead-ass serious this guy was, and got absolutely clocked in the face when he fucked with this guy's hat a third time. All he could say was, "What the fuck, man, chill out," but no one was willing to hear him out. The guy I worked with named Buddy bought a huge Snap-on roll-away toolbox for over $3,000 on credit. 2 days later, he sold it to a co-worker for $1,500 because he had some overdue bills and had to pay them. Needless to say, he never paid Snap-on for the toolbox. He was off into the wind after he was fired for starting his fourth fist fight at work. One of the other guys I worked with told the Snap-on salesman where Buddy's new job was, and last we heard, they are now garnishing his wages. The guy was a nutcase, though. He had very thin skin, and the slightest thing would set him off. He went absolutely nuts when he was set off, though. He yelled at the security guard and threatened to have him fired because he didn't like his tone. He almost got fired 3 times for fighting, but he was able to win the department manager over until the 4th time. Oh, and one time he was told to put caution tape across a malfunctioning gate, and he said, "I don't know how." Work with a guy who honestly believes he will not die. Also believes that doctors are part of the system, and that they lie to you for profit and personal gain. He does believe in Eastern traditional medicine, however. And if you're interested to know his secret to eternal life, it's 6 raw eggs a day and a keto diet.